What up? Welcome into Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I hope all of you had a great weekend. Here's what we're getting into on today's show. Can the Warriors package pick number 7 as well as pick number 14? Maybe another asset to move all the way up to the top of the NBA draft to maybe take Cade Cunningham. Let's get into it. So as we know, Warriors have picks 7 and 14 in the NBA draft lottery. The big question that we're getting to, are they able to package those picks for the number 1 overall selection, which figures to be either Cade Cunningham, maybe Jalen Green of the G League Ignite? And we're talking about this because Jonathan Givony, ESPN's draft expert, did say that the Pistons are exploring trading the number 1 pick, and NBC Sports Bay Area put out an article looking further into that, saying this: Golden State could push together all of its draft assets, including another future first-round pick, to move up and grab the best prospect in the class, Cade Cunningham, out of Oklahoma State, one who can both help them win now and eventually take the torch from Curry as the face of the franchise. Very fascinating stuff that we're getting into on today's show. So Warriors fans, tell me this. Should the Warriors trade up for Cade Cunningham, who we'll do a scouting profile here coming up in just a second? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get your votes in the comment section. I am daring you to type your Y or your S. Let's take a further look at Cade Cunningham. He was outstanding for Oklahoma State as a freshman this past year. That's a big reason why he's the consensus number 1 player in this draft class. 20 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He shot a little less than 44% from the field, and his three-point numbers were pretty good as well. This is a guy who can kind of do it all, and when I scout him, I like to pinpoint him as an offensive orchestrator, right? Because he can create his own shot off the dribble. He can shoot off catch and shoots, but also he can facilitate. He has great vision, and he can find his teammates through the passing lanes as well. And he can score at all 3 levels. He'll get to the cup. He's got a little mid-range game, and as I mentioned, he can knock down shots from beyond the arc. I just love his ability to both create for himself, but also create for others. And at his size of 6'8", kind of has athleticism and a vision that reminds me a little bit of Ben Simmons, but obviously Cade Cunningham, not afraid to shoot the rock and let it rip. And his size, I think, eventually will lend itself to him playing really, really good defense. I did talk about Jonathan Givony's report on Cade Cunningham not being a lock to be the number 1 pick during NBA Now last week. Also the fact that the Pistons are possibly looking at trading out of that number 1 selection. Here's what he had to say in that report. Cunningham is not any kind of lock at number 1 from everything that I've gathered. Detroit is continuing to conduct due diligence on a group that also includes Jalen Green and especially Evan Mobley, while also exploring several trade opportunities that have emerged. Teams including Cleveland, Houston, New Orleans, and Oklahoma City are among those teams making overtures to evaluate what it would take to move up to the number 1 slot, sources say, but those talks are at an early stage, and any trade is unlikely to be consummated until much closer to the draft, if at all. We will see if the Warriors join that group of Cleveland, Houston, New Orleans, and Oklahoma City. The other player that's gathering momentum right now, and on the heels of Cade Cunningham as possibly being the best player atop this class, it's Jalen Green. Now, he elected not to go to college last year. He went to the G League instead. And I really like him because he's an elite scorer, reminds me a lot in that regard of maybe a Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine from an athletic standpoint, as well as his ability to score the rock as well. And when I scout prospects, the one thing that I'm looking for right now, especially with how the game has changed, is scoring ability. Jalen Green has it, did so in the G League last year, only 15 games, but in that sample size, you saw glimpses of him becoming a really special player. The 36.5% spot from deep, that's NBA range, not college range, okay? Because he was playing in the G League. And the competition, a little bit better at the G League level than the college level. I also like the fact that he shot 83% from the free throw line as well and averaged almost 18 points per game. The Warriors packaging 7 and 14, though, to move up to number 1, I think it's a tall task. And I frankly don't see it happening. I think it's unrealistic. I think it's doubtful. I think the Pistons would be foolish to move out of that slot. They have an opportunity to either get their selection of Cade, Jalen Green, maybe Evan Mobley. I think all 3 of those players have a lot of potential. don't trade out of that spot. Just be smart and select the best player according to your evaluations. That's why I don't see the Pistons moving out unless they're really, really stupid. And over the last several years, they haven't been run like a smart franchise. What would I do if I'm the Warriors and Bob Myers? I like being aggressive. And I also like what Steph Curry did this past year, playing like an MVP. What I would do, I would package number 7 and number 14 and try to bring in a star via trade. I'm looking at guys like Damian Lillard. I'm looking at guys like Bradley Beal. I don't think Ben Simmons makes a ton of sense, but I would be intrigued by that idea. If I'm the Warriors, I'm going star hunting. I'm taking advantage of Steph Curry still playing like an MVP. I'm hoping that Klay Thompson comes back healthy, and I'm trying to chase a ring. So predict it for me now. What do you think the Warriors will do? Type S for they're going to stay put at number 7 and 14. Type T for you think they're going to trade all of their picks for a star, which is what I want them to do. Or type U if you think the Warriors are going to trade up, maybe to number 1. Get those votes in down below. Let me tell you a little bit about the Newsbreak app. If you go to chatsports.com/WarriorsNB using that link at the bottom of your screen, that's going to redirect you to the App Store on either your iPhone or your Android, and you'll be able to download the Newsbreak app right on your phone for free. It's the best app that I have on my phone because I'm really busy. I do a lot of things here at Chat Sports outside of work. I like to fulfill my interests just outside of sports, keeping tabs on what's going on with pop culture. I'm watching Breaking Bad right now for the second time. Great show, by the way. I like to stay on date with all of the current happenings in the news world. And the Newsbreak app allows me to do that because everything that I want is on one single feed right on my phone. So once again, chatsports.com/WarriorsNB. And on one single feed, your local news, weather, and sports content. You can get politics, food, pop culture, and entertainment updates as well. And if you're a Dubs fan, hey, Warriors content on the Newsbreak app as well. Give Warriors Today a follow because we're putting Warriors videos on Newsbreak as well. Appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us here on Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Steph Curry, after what was just a masterful season this past year, which saw the Warriors lose in the NBA play-in tournament, has been somewhat silent throughout the offseason, which is somewhat of a surprise because this is a massive offseason for the Warriors because I think they have to make some moves to take advantage of Steph Curry still being an elite player. Now, Steph Curry, this summer, he's not playing in the Olympics. He said he's very cool with that conversation. Just kind of didn't want to overdo it with his body, and as we've seen, he's been prone to injuries in the past, especially with his ankles. He didn't win an ESPY over the weekend for the best male basketball player, so congrats to Steph Curry for that. And he's been staying busy on the links. He's a fantastic golfer, and over the weekend, he's playing in the American Century Championship Celebrity Golf Tournament. And finally, Steph Curry did speak, and he told the Athletic's Anthony Slater that everything is on the table for the organization this offseason. Here's exactly what he had to say. We do have a lot to work with potential picks, guys coming back, hopefully enticing some free agents to come out to the Bay and be a part of a winning organization and how we do things. I feel like everything's on the table at this point. There's a lot of time before the draft and before training camp and free agency period. Will the Warriors, considering what Steph Curry said, he's obviously got some intel with this organization and a lot of power at that, make a big splash this offseason? Type C for you're grabbing the knees, it's going to be a cannonball splash and explode out the pool, or type T for somewhat of a tiny splash. Get those votes in down below. Some Warriors offseason questions that I have for this franchise going into this offseason. NBA free agency, NBA draft. We're going to keep you covered here on Warriors Today. The big decision for Bob Myers, what do you do with picks number 7 and 14? Do you bring in young players with those 2 lottery picks? Do you package those 2 picks to go star hunting, to try to lure a star player to join forces with Steph, Klay, and Draymond to chase a championship? Do you use 7 and 14 to maybe move up in the NBA draft, to get a better player, maybe like Cade Cunningham atop this draft class? I talk about star hunting. The Warriors could be star hunters, and frankly, what I would do, package 7 and 14 to go star hunting so that you can try to get the 4th championship with this current core of Steph, Klay, and Draymond. Also another question, what's the future of James Wiseman? Are you going to package him in a trade, or are you going to see how you can maximize him, considering that you used the number 2 pick on him 2 drafts ago? And I am just hoping and praying that Klay Thompson is going to be able to come off the ACL injury as well as the Achilles injuries and get back to that form that you saw him at from 2015 to 2019 when he was a 5-time NBA All-Star. Biggest offseason needs for the Warriors. It's a creator outside of Steph Curry. I think a big reason why the Warriors were in the NBA play-in tournament and they really fluctuated in terms of their record and they floated around 500, they didn't have a go-to scorer outside of Steph Curry. And if they did have one, name me one right now. Exactly right. Because there was nobody. So they need another creator outside of Steph. And obviously, Steph plays the point. He plays the 2. I think the Warriors could use another guard. I like Jordan Poole coming off the bench as a scoring option, but you can't rely too much on a guy like Kent Bazemore. Give me some more star power at the guard spot. A guy like Spencer Dinwiddie really intrigues me. Also, you're looking at front court depth. Draymond is getting a little bit older. I still think he's an excellent player. He's an all-NBA defensive caliber guy as well. Josh Giddey, if you hold on to 14, could be available at that selection. You might be looking at that pick saying, Josh Giddey from Australia, Adelaide, g'day, mate. We already have Draymond. Why do we need Josh Giddey? Yes, he can play guard, but like Draymond, he can play a variety of positions, and he reminds me a lot of Draymond as potentially being a point forward guy who's like 6'8", 6'9", has fantastic size, and his passing attributes, his skill set there, it just reminds me so much of Ben Simmons, and I think that is an elite quality that can really help a championship team. His scoring, not so much there. His passing, it is there. And once again, Klay Thompson has to stay healthy. That's an off-season need for this franchise, because if he was healthy this past year, I think the Warriors could have contended possibly in the Western Conference. Dubs, homies, before we head out of here, I want you to chime in one more time. What is the biggest Warriors offseason need? I listed a few there. Get into the comments and let me know.